Hi, I'm Stan Winston. My studio is responsible for the live-action dinosaurs and the design of the dinosaurs in Jurassic Park, Lost World, and Jurassic Park 3.
I'm John Rosengrant, and I was the live-action dinosaur effects supervisor on all 3 Jurassic movies.
I'm Dan Taylor. I'm with ILM. I was the animation director on JP3.
I'm Michael Lantieri, and my team was responsible for the mechanical effects on all 3 movies.
So the first shot that comes up here is actually an effect shot. It's 2 different backgrounds. We had to split a shot of the Hawaiian Mountains there into a separate sky plate. And then the plane coming in here is a little CG airplane that we added in, as well as the reflections in the binoculars. And throughout this sequence, part of it was shot at the island of Molokai, and sections of it were shot in Palos Verdes down here in Southern California. Those shots that were done in Southern California, we had to add some of the mountains of Molokai into the background. So it's a real combination of things, but through editing and compositing work, it blends together pretty seamlessly.
You're making a good trip! I'm gonna get you close, my friend, but not too close, eh? You don't want to be eaten!
This was a blue screen shot coming up here where they deploy the parachute, and it was a digital parachute done with some of our new cloth simulation at ILM.
That opening right there was a digital opening of the
That's right,
parachute?
yeah.
It's excellent.
Yeah, we developed some new stuff for that. It's been working pretty well for us.
I'll say.
Nigel Sumner was the genius behind all our cloth sim work.
Well, most people really think about us as having to do with the live-action dinosaurs. What most people don't realize is the 2 actors flying here, when you see them in close-up, are actually animatronic. We couldn't get any live actors to work in this movie, and we created them.
We did that with Laura Dern later in the film. We had
yeah.
some digital Laura Dern, and you had your animatronic version of her, and
Well,
you can't tell.
we'll be talking about the dinosaurs. The fact of the matter is the dinosaurs do look so real in this movie is because the dinosaurs are real. It was the actors that we couldn't get to go to the island where we actually found the dinosaurs and had to replicate them all, and that was a tough job.
We actually have come to the point where we're compositing actors into real dinosaur movies.
This is going to leave everyone confused.
Okay. As it should.
We're on the editing room floor.
It's okay, we're all confused too.
What was that? I don't know.
As Dan said, one of the things to look for is the handoff between hanging and flying and real parasailing and digital canopies and animatronic people that are flying, indoor, outdoor, backlot, all different matching of water scenarios that Shelley Johnson had to light and try to blend together.
I think that's the real key, too, now that we're on our 3rd film here, is that we've gotten... I think this whole team has gotten really good at blending all these different techniques and using the appropriate technique at the appropriate time, and it's just a very seamless result.
Now this is blue screen when they go away.
That's correct. On that boat crash, we had to add a distressed area to the hull there where the hole was, so we had to replace a section of that hull with a computer image of the hull.
Are this shot live or digital?
This was live. But this shot was interesting, though. They did split it. That canopy actually flew in front of that mountain, and then Joe decided he wanted it to go behind the mountain, so we actually had to split it out so it would fly behind.
These are some of the better dinosaurs that we created in the movie.
Actually, Charlie, that's what herbivores.
They're a little stiff-looking, Stan.
Well, it's just that they're not being puppeted properly.
Power outage that day. Digital Laura Dern. You'd never realize it.
Let's wait till he's 5. All right, sorry, Charlie.
Ellie?
Yeah.
It's Tom again. He says he has to talk to you about the last chapter.
Just tell him I'm not going to lose the Jack Horner quota. My editor thinks he's a paleontologist. That's good. Hey, Mark. Hey, babe. Look who's here. This is Alan.
Nice to meet you, Alan.
Daddy,
I've heard a lot about you.
this is a herbivore and that's the dinosaur man.
Dinosaur man. Jack, Say my name. Is my name Alan? Is my name Alan? He used to know me.
Once again, one of the trickiest things about doing another Jurassic movie is that the audience really believes that everything you're doing in this movie was capable in the last movie, and they couldn't be more wrong.
Facts are is that each movie has been R&D for the next. Well, we couldn't have done what we did in Jurassic Park 1 had we not worked on technologies similar to that before Jurassic Park 1 and movies. In fact, the team of ILM and Stanwich and Studio were together on T2, where it was one of the first times we blended CG characters and live-action characters. In Aliens, we had built a full-size Queen Alien 14 feet tall and hydraulic, and all of those technologies came together to allow us to do what we did in Jurassic Park, and we could never have done Lost World. Had we not done Jurassic Park, we definitely could not have done what we did in Jurassic Park 3 without all of the previous experience, and it really came together in this movie.
The challenge is kind of always the same, Stan, where you, the idea is always to create the most believable, realistic creatures, in this case dinosaurs, that we can put up on the screen, and we're always challenging ourselves. We're always raising that bar just a little bit, to push them more towards realism, and at the same time keep them dynamic and entertaining. So there's sort of a real fine line you have to walk there.
A good example of what we're talking about is the animatronic raptors in the first movie were cable and radio controlled. In the second film, they were radio control components and also hydraulically driven cables.
External hydraulics.
Yes, and then in the third movie, we figured out how to get a hydraulic package inside of a raptor, which as far as dinosaurs goes is not that big, but became a self-contained hydraulic character.
I think what we've all had to do as a team is become better actors, and people have wanted to know what you're doing in Jurassic Park 3 that we didn't do in Lost World and Jurassic Park. And in fact, because of the script, all of the dinosaurs had a bigger part. They had a bigger part to play in this movie. They had more acting that they had to do. In order to have that acting come alive, all of the technologies had to come together in a way beyond anything that they have done before to be able to create these performances. In the live-action world, our range of motion, our controllability, our puppeteering skills, our speed and our power all had to be enhanced. And I know in the CG world, the art, the muscles, the movement of the skin become so perfect that they've matched the live-action dinosaurs so perfectly that within a same shot in this movie, we have live-action and CG dinosaurs, and you cannot tell which is which. It's impossible to know what's real and what's Memorex.
Another thing that's easily overlooked is I know going myself all the way back to Roger Rabbit, where we first started putting any kind of animation into a movie, it became a huge responsibility for someone on the set to realize what those characters would be like and interacting with them in a manner that coincides with their personalities. Along the way, we've purposely worked on films such as Roger Rabbit, Casper, Lost World, Jurassic Park, where we try to use these performance interactive effects to help sell their performances even more. And hopefully each time we do that, it goes farther and farther to where it's just seamless and you just believe what you're seeing.
We also, I know in the first Jurassic Park as well as the second, the mandate was nature. That was our benchmark, to make these animals as real as possible. As we started to get into Lost World a little bit more, there was times when we took some poetic license where we could stretch their performance a little bit. just to get a heightened dramatic effect. So we could push the performance a little bit beyond reality. In the third one, we found ourselves leaning sometimes more in that direction, to where it was what I was always calling the coolness factor. If it was something that worked well within the shot, and we didn't take it too far, and we had Jack Horner there always making sure we weren't going too far out with the performance on these dinosaurs, we would push that performance. I found that if the audience, within the first few moments, if the audience perceives the dinosaurs as real, you can then push the performance, and they're still along for the ride. So it was a constant juggling act of trying to find the balance between reality and entertainment. And like Stan says, it really is just the experience of these three, where in our case, in Stan's case, it was the puppeteers that get more experience. In our case, it was the animators that were in there animating dinosaurs for the third time. So, and we had some people working on JP3 that had worked on the other two films. So this is a real veteran crew that went to work on this thing.
As far as the art that goes into this film, actually, this fossil that we just saw from above was actually a sculpture and a creation from the studio, and
in 2 days.
And we're always looking at this, and from the stretch between art and performance and science and technology, and I'm always thrilled when I'm able to just look for a moment at the art behind it.
In the movie business, what happens sometimes is something just needs to be created quickly because scenes change, or deadlines, or when something's going to be shot changes, and that dinosaur fossil was a good example of that, where suddenly, if I remember right, it was weather caused it to need to be shot sooner, so it had to be sculpted and painted and put together in a short period of time.
One of the groups that we always work very closely with would be the art department. As John mentioned, sometimes they get curveballs thrown at them and make changes and need things put together or designed very quickly. And we worked with Ed Verreau in this case, and Rick Carter in the other two movies, and always trying to stay on the same page in terms of the overall design of the picture. They're very involved with what we're doing.
This resonating chamber was based on some reality as well. Joe was trying to figure out how to make this look more realistic, and we came up with an idea. Joe and I talked about casting the inside of a dog's skull in its nasal resonating chamber. So we poured silicone inside and then pulled out the positive and saw what that looked like, and then increased its size and created a fantasy piece, because we don't have one of a raptor, but it was based on reality.
That's being based on reality is really sort of the cornerstone of everything that we've all done together in each of the Jurassic Park movies, is with the fact that really no one knows the truth of dinosaurs. All we know is bones. But we do know, basically, based on the science, what we know from paleontologists, what we know from studying, what we know from our research, what muscle structure probably was there, what the skins probably were, given the way they are thought to have acted in nature, what the colorations could be. So virtually we've taken science, and with our art based in reality, grounded in reality, created dinosaurs that paleontologists now will say are the most paleontologically correct dinosaurs that anyone has ever seen. In fact, given the movements, that the full body movements that were the larger, more dynamic movements that that were developed and created at ILM now, and through the animation, through all of their animation, paleontologists now look and they say now they know how dinosaurs moved. And so, in fact, artistically, we have created, with scientific research, what now science bases what the science is. So science pushed the art, and then now art has pushed the science. And because of what we have created in the Jurassic Park series, paleontologists literally now can say they know how dinosaurs move. And the reason they know is because it makes sense. Because you look at them and it feels right. There's no truth to it, but when you have a bone structure, a muscle structure, and a size and weight scenario, and then you put it together and figure out if it's this heavy, if it moved any faster, it would self-destruct.
That's a real good point, Stan, that we do start by grounding them in known facts about the dinosaurs. Then we do have a point of departure then. If we're going to go away from that, we know where we're going, and we can still keep them definitely grounded in reality so they come across as real dinosaurs. I remember when Jack Horner was at ILM one time, we showed him some tests of the Spino running. And I said, we had it up to about, I forget what it was, 35 miles an hour, I think. And I said, you think he really could have run that fast? And he said, no, but it sure looks neat. So, even Jack knows where that line is when we cross it, and if it's gonna work for the film, he's for it. But he does keep us grounded, so we know we do have a point of departure that's based on, like you say, scientific accuracy.
Survival of the most idiotic.
These interior shots were all blue screen, and with the sky composited into the background. And there's been such advances in digital compositing now that you can't tell sometimes that it's even a composite shot.
Now, I know coming up, Dan, we have this shot with the Raptor in the dream sequence. Did you guys add to that or enhance in it, or was it totally R?
As far as I know, that was all
Just
practical stuff,
right.
It works great, too.
And it seems like it was intentionally lit to make the Raptor look like how he did in the previous two films, because I was concerned that their coloration is different in this film. And Joe and Shelley said, well, let's just gray them out, make them look like they did in the other films.
Gets a great reaction from the audience, this sequence.
It does.
It's a cute Muppet shot.
Scary Muppet. Very scary Muppet.
Alan! Wake up. I'm almost there.
Boy, the reality is it's just so much fun to work on films like this. And we're always doing little bits of sweetening here. There were some buildings back there that we had to take out to make it look more remote. I think we did a total of like 400 effect shots at ILM. For
this is also through the windshield was matte shot, was it not? I mean, a digital composite.
Yeah,
that's right. Yep.
Once again, you're looking at a bunch of different lighting scenarios that had to be matched by Shelley. We're on a motion base with different fuselages, sometimes exterior shots, sometimes interior shots. All that has to be painstakingly matched, and then add to that compositing backgrounds that hopefully, as you see, become seamless.
Because what the audience doesn't know is it doesn't all exist in Hawaii or in one place to match the script. I think, from what I remember, they had a hell of a time finding canyons and steep cliff walls.
That's right. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people believe you can get a crew of 80 inside a 12-seat airplane.
Here we are into our first digital dinosaurs.
No, you can't. There we go.
Yeah, this was our the awe shot, kind of an out of Africa sort of thing as they first arrive at the island. And what we did on a lot of our herd shots is we didn't replicate them in the computer, like do one cycle and replicate it. We did a lot of custom animation just to give it that sort of the type of thing you see in nature, where there are imperfections in nature that if you really rely too much on the computer, it makes things too precise. So we did a lot of custom animation on a lot of those runs.
Kirby, look. Out here you'll see a group of triceratops.
Kirby, we have a landing strip up ahead. You want me to put it down?
No. I told you, I want to circle first, see the whole island.
What do you mean set it down? You can't land here. What are you talking about?
Hold on. I can explain if
You
listen.
cannot land on this island.
Dr. Grass, can
It'll be fine. You just
please,
don't know.
Dr.
Everything's
Grass,
gonna be
please
fine.
sit
You just
down.
don't know.
Wait. Dr. Grass, will you please sit down?
I love William Macy. I think he's so good, and I think Sam is so terrific in this. The whole cast in this film I was enamored with. John spent all his time on the set, supervising all of the dinosaur work on the movie. But I would come to the set just to play with the actors. Had such a good time with them.
It was a great group.
They always have to go through a lot on these movies. They get real bumps and bruises, believe it or not, and they have to be good sports about it and not get mad at us. So we have to keep a real close watch on them and a good relationship with them to get them to do some of the things that they have to do.
And the dinosaurs, the live-action ones that we had on set, were really powerful. The Spinosaurus was 1,000 horsepower. He was 24 plus feet long, and that was only half of him. And he was 24,000 pounds.
Actually, 12 and a half tons of dinosaur. The sequence that's coming up where we meet the Spinosaur, we initially meet him as a CG Spinosaur, and then we get into the airplane scenario, and we're talking about 12 and a half tons of dinosaur jamming its nose into that airplane. Our actors in this particular scene that's coming up didn't have to act scared. They truly were, because they could have gotten hurt really bad.
See, they never get scared of ours, Stan, because they're never there.
They're not there. Stan's right. We had an airplane on a motion base that has 100 horsepower of hydraulics, and they're shoving something towards the airplane with a few hundred horsepower of hydraulics. You have the potential for a head-on wreck that's, I think, unlike anything anybody's seen if we're not really well planned and safe-minded.
Very safe. It was with Pat Romano and all of us. It was a good team. Pat was the stunt coordinator, and we all had to work very closely.
Great shot coming up. I hate to interrupt. I want to see this. I want to see this.
This was the first shot. This was the first shot we finished for this film too, and it really.
Oh, it is so awesome.
It allowed us to establish for the whole movie the type of energy these dinosaurs were going to have.
Yeah, I remember talking about this shot with him.
This is what this movie's about. Right. Bam. There. Goodbye.
Whammo. That's where the magic happens, as you would say, Stan.
I just love it when dinos eat people, don't you?
I do. This was all quarter-scale miniature that we shot back at ILM up until the point where it gets lodged in the tree, and then Michael's crew takes over here. But they shot at 48 frames a second. That plane was moving at 40 miles an hour. The camera moving at 20.
It's a good crash. Don Elliott took all the flack for putting this group up in the tree and making them believe for sure that we've covered every base, keeping them safe and rocking them back and forth and tilting them and making them feel as though they're going to slide out. And Don Elliott and Pat Romano, once again, didn't let these actors out of their sight ever during this sequence, and it went off pretty well.
Now, Bruce here, the actor, the pilot on the right, was a real trooper. I mean, when you see him go into the Spino's mouth, he goes into the Spino's mouth.
That's scary.
And then, of course, when he's whipped out of the plane, it's a stunt double.
It's a stunt double.
But
and then there is a scene that was shot, and that's the big animatronic one peeking in the window.
I love those kind of shots, those little spooky peekaboo things.
As quickly as this goes by in the film, I can assure you there's hours of rehearsal and practice.
This was days and days of shooting.
Absolutely. Very, very, very carefully planned out, each piece.
This is all real, going through Michael's breakaway plane, grabbing Bruce. Now that's the stunt man whipping around.
That's Bruce. And it's Bruce that's going to get hit right here, too.
Yep.
Yeah, this is a great shot right here.
Yeah. Now, that's a great shot because that was a combination live and CG in the same shot. All feet.
That one was awesome.
Yeah, all CG of him grabbing him.
But we have so many of those, it's hard to tell sometimes, you know?
But all those roaring shots.
We do have a great combination of CG and animatronic coming up right here, though, Stan. That was our CG. Yep. But once it hits the plane here, it's a combination of the animatronic and CG, which is just works so well together.
And once again, the challenge of pulling this off inside Stage 12, making it look as though you're in the jungle, is something that shouldn't be overlooked.
CG dinosaur coming up.
Yeah, that was another very creepy shot. Then we got your animatronic foot coming in here. So
Boom.
now this is where we go to the mix of the CG and the animatronic. All those shots.
The foot was real.
Yeah.
The rest of
The rest of it was CG.
Yeah, the foreground, the close foot was real, and the rest is CG, and you can't tell. That's your animatronic there.
That was a quick foot shot of the animatronic. This is the animatronic tearing in.
We designed interior and exterior crushing airplane fuselages to be shot for each sequence. Had to make them safe. Seats that would fold down, keeping safe areas that were designed
Now,
by Pat Romano for
When
his
he's
people.
going in there, those actors are very close to getting hit
Very
by
close.
1,000 horsepower,
In-
12.5-ton dinosaur. And now the CG dinosaur, when they're running, with all this, there is no way of knowing what is what. And you know what? The mistake I made myself in this commentary is just a sign of me looking
You're
at
not
this
kidding.
movie and going, I don't know what we did.
Yeah. Well, that's it. They
Which
blend
is
together.
very, very cool.
They blend together
Yeah.
so well. You know, one thing that we did too on a lot of our shots this time is we'd crop into the background plate with the dinosaurs, and we added what we were calling like a reality cam. You know, looking at reference footage of animal attacks and stuff, there's always this loss of cinematic control that happens with the cameraman, obviously, because he's, scared out of his wits. So we tried to put that look into a lot of the camera moves, both in that Spino attacking the
This is
plane.
a big dead Parasaurolophus carcass.
And
that
this is
did.
when we bring back our T-Rex.
This is a refurbished one from Lost World, the male Rex. And that's all live now. This is CG running.
And you can see the camera shake there, that sort of reality cam that we put into these, and we use it
That's
extensively.
a real Spino foot with the
Us and a CG dinosaur coming up. And now a total CG battle.
Well,
There's a couple of add-on pieces.
Yeah, there's a
though.
couple shots in here that are. But yeah, this was a lot of fun. This was
This was
something out
awesome.
of King Kong, and
This
the
is
crew,
so awesome.
The crew just got so jazzed about this.
The
Again,
audiences freak over this.
yeah, you can see the whole reality cam thing happening here. And we just had such a great crew. I wish I could sit here and tell you every one of their names, because there's an army behind this stuff, and they're all very talented people.
That's all of filmmaking is that.
Yeah.
Every department, everything. It's huge, great crews.
So read the credits. Don't leave until the
That's
credits
right,
end.
all the credits.
So that's
That's it.
that's a real one coming off of the dead real head.
John, yours aren't real. They're animatronic.
Oh, okay.
They're real.
They're real to me. They're real foam rubber metal.
Called everyone. We did everything we could. No one would help us. The Costa Rican government said this is a no-fly zone. The U.S. Embassy, that's our U.S. Embassy, told us we should accept the inevitable. Can you believe that?
You let a 12-year-old go parasailing alone?
No!
He wasn't alone. He was with a friend of mine.
Ben Hildebrand.
Paul and I divorced over a year ago.
All right, so why me?
He said we needed someone.
You know, in some of these shots coming up where, like Stan and John were talking about, where we combine the CG dinosaurs with the animatronic dinosaurs, and we've touched on a few reasons why. Stan was talking about the advances in our flesh that now looks more realistic. One thing we did on this film too, and it's just because we have more computer power these days, is we actually built a lot more geometry into our computer models. In the past, any of the smaller detail, the little bumps on them and stuff, would be sort of a 2D fake-out trick. In this one, they actually had all the little bumps on their skin texture, which reacts to the light a lot different than the other ones did, as well as there's been some amazing developments in our digital lighting tools. We also took when we painted these models, we actually went and shot photographs, technical views of the ones that Stan and John had put together, and mapped those onto our CG dinosaurs. We had to go in and make some adjustments, with painting on top of them. But those things are some of the reasons why these why we're now able to put our CG dinosaurs right in with the animatronic ones, and you can't tell the difference. So
The stuff that's coming up with the Raptors is my favorite.
yes.
As far as because I've I always have this line that we don't do special effects, we create characters for film. Always like to feel that we're actors, and with what's happened with the CG and the live action world with the Velociraptors, they are such good actors. We have in the live action world, the guys have created such a greater range of performance and subtlety and controllability of the puppeting of these raptors, that their performance is so neat. You can see them listening and thinking and acting and reacting with one another, reacting with the actors, and then to have their performance enhanced by the CG dinosaurs, which can do so much more than what we can do in the live action world. We've as a team created really cool characters in this movie, and the raptors are my favorite new dinosaur, and they're not new. So.
But along those lines, when we started this movie with the raptors, the art team was secretly disappointed that we were doing raptors again, because we wanted to do something new. But then we all thought, okay, well, let's have them evolve. Let's change the colors. Let's change their faces, and let's
beautiful design, by the way.
Oh,
that was awesome.
And the quills that are in progress of turning towards feathers, because of all the research that's coming out now saying that velociraptors and
birds.
The connection between the two. So it was all fun things to blend that and to reinvent the raptors, to create a new character.
They evolved. They evolved as paleontology, as the science of paleontology has evolved over the years of the series. We pushed more toward the bird.
We were so glad to see those quills, I want to tell you, because it gave, with a dinosaur, there's not much facial movement. They're like a crocodile that you can get for anything. But with those quills, when they would get angry, and we'd take those quills and make them stand up, or when they were timid, lay those quills back. It was just one of those details, I think, that added something new to the
awesome.
raptors.
Paint and tile, yeah.
Never can tell about people, can you?
Ain't that the truth?
People always ask about that, the color schemes. How do you know what they look like? And we don't. But back to what we were talking about, what Stan touched on earlier, it's all borrowing from nature and looking at different lizards, iguanas, birds. Male birds were more flamboyant, so we put in, the brighter reds into the male raptors, and the female one is, a little bit duller in her color scheme.
But elegant. She's gorgeous.
Having the animatronics on set there, too, obviously the actors love that. They have something to react to rather than, we put up a little tennis ball or something and say, okay, that's where the dinosaur is going to be. But one thing that amazed me when we got into this thing, and I think part of it is because they do have the animatronic dinosaurs to react to, is that when the dinosaurs aren't there, when we get a clean plate that doesn't have a dinosaur in it where we have to add one, they look like they're really afraid. I mean, I know these are top-notch actors, but when you look at the plate and you go, all right, there's, Taya running away from a raptor. You start to put the raptor in there, you go, oh, my God, she's terrified. And I think they have that frame of reference to draw from with the animatronics that are right there on
Absolutely.
On
set. What's happened with this method of creating creatures for films that are grounded in reality and that have to deal with human actors, by not relying on any one technology, by bringing the technologies together, you raise the bar of the performance of everything in the movie. By having the live action dinosaurs there, any actor will tell you, I started out as an actor, that 50% of acting is reacting, and the best actors will tell you they'll give a better performance with another good actor. So the fact that the actors do have dinosaurs there to react to does, in fact, allow them a performance that they can bring back when they're not there for the CG dinosaurs. And then the performance of the CG dinosaurs raises the performance level of the animatronic dinosaurs to a level where the animatronics by themselves could not have that performance. So the performance of the dinosaurs is increased that much more by the CG additional, that big performance that we can't do. The live action raises the performance and a certain reality with the actors, and everybody's bar is raised. And by having the live action dinosaurs there on the set, and by being strapped in the CG world to having to match the reality of what's on the set, raises the bar of the CG art, raises the bar of the CG artist. If it's oftentimes, because we're constantly dealing with artists, and we ourselves would rather, if we're doing gorillas, not have a real gorilla next to us, because, there's a good chance we're not going to look real if we have to match the real thing sitting next to him. So having to match that reality raises the bar of the art in the digital world. So everybody's bar, our bar has to be raised because we're dealing with actors. The actors' performance is raised up because of it, and the digital dinosaurs, everything comes to a higher level of reality. And then when you look at it, you go, my goodness, these are the most believable dinosaurs I have ever seen. These performances come together, and they come together because of all of these elements coming together, and each one needs the other.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Well, like we've always said, it's kind of a two-headed monster we put out there, and and I always get a kick out of the general audience doesn't know where one starts and the other one leaves off, and it's always fun if you're talking with somebody and you're sort of pointing out where they are and they have no idea. So I think it's a very seamless union that we put on the screen.
Unknowingly, I think visual effects has certainly not challenged, but put a call out to all the actors to raise their bar as well, to respond to things that are now capable that were not capable 10 years ago. So in a certain aspect, we've almost become cheerleaders or acting coaches to try to bring them along with this whole technology that's moving so fast and making films that are put together differently.
And I think the flip side of that also is true, Michael. I think that if you get right down to it, any movie like this, the only way we can believe this movie is by the performance of these actors.
Oh, absolutely.
By their reality. And if you don't believe that they believe, we're not going to believe.
It doesn't work.
If you don't totally believe the performances of Sam Neill, of Taya, of Alessandro, of William H. Macy, if you're not with them, you're not with the movie. And no matter what we do in the technical world, in the effects world, in the digital world, in the animatronic world, none of it will work if we're not with these people right here. If we're not afraid for them dying, we're not going to be afraid of those dinosaurs.
That's true.
We don't follow them in this story. I mean, these are the storytellers. These are the people that the audience really relate to. They don't relate to dinosaurs.
If you start rooting for the dinosaurs, we've lost.
We've lost, absolutely.
I wonder if anyone out there does root for the dinosaurs.
Well, I think with some people you do, yeah. I think, you put a bad guy in there, you want him dead. But in this particular case, in this movie, it's such a thrill ride because, at least for me, I'm so with these characters. I find them so much fun.
It was the lawyer, though, on the toilet that I think Michael's referring to. Everyone loved it when he got eaten.
There's a few out there that you want to go.
That's not this movie.
No, it's really not. You really do like this. You like this group a lot.
You like this group.
We've enhanced a lot of these shots that were shot on the back lot here at Universal, with matte paintings to extend mountain ranges in the background and that sort of thing.
This was the famous "Smoke is Our Friend" sequence, I think, where we really tried to hide some of Hollywood Lake in the background.
There's a fairly simple shot coming up here. I mean, simple from as far as what we were doing at ILM. But it's a very effective shot, and it's
the little raptor.
Yeah,
running
little
in the
raptor
background.
running by. It's
I love that.
Very creepy little moment that happens out
great.
there. And that brings up a point that special effects, to me, it's harder to make a good special effects shot. There it is. I love that because we can do anything now. Between the animatronics and the CG, we can, and all the practical gags and stuff that Michael comes up with. There's very little we can't do. So for a special effects shot to be special, it has to be set up cinematically. You have to bring the audience to a point where when you deliver that shot, it's got some punch. If not, it just becomes this sensory overload, and the audience becomes numb to it. I think Joe did an excellent job.
Yeah, I was
in
going to say this.
structuring that.
The star of this movie is Joe Johnston.
Yeah, definitely.
And
He did a
it's
great
very
job.
important for everybody to realize that really filmmaking is a director's media.
Yes.
And Joe took everything that
Designed
Steven
every
had.
one of these shots.
Exactly. He took everything that Steven had given him with Jurassic Park and Lost World, took all of the art, took all the technology, and then created his own movie, went beyond anything we had seen before, pushed the envelope, and really created such a great ride here, and did what virtually everyone thought was impossible. How are you going to make a better dinosaur movie? And put the dinosaurs in this movie beyond any way anybody has ever seen them.
You know how we keep talking about how well structured this film is, how Joe did a great job of building up to certain effect shots. Well, his editor, Robert Dalva, that's worked with Joe on a lot of his other films, I think did a really outstanding job. And those guys work so well together. The proof is there on the screen.
These are little silicone baby failed
Embryonics,
dinosaur experiments that we did.
Yeah, again, here you hand off here to where we go to a CG. We have a CG Raptor in this tank, which was a little tricky because he's actually has to be spatially positioned behind the tank, yet we had to give the illusion that he was in the tank. And this little eye movement here, great scene. I love this scene.
That's scary.
There again, you got to look at the quills coming up there. Subtle stuff, but it really adds a lot. So.
Great motion.
We're coming to a place now where most people don't realize that the methodologies that we use in the live action aspect, the animatronics, the hydraulics, we also still have and brought back in this movie the man in a suit, and John Rosengrant is a raptor in this scene. He's in this raptor. This is all CG here, but when he gets on there close and starts climbing up, that's John. That's CG. This is John. And this is John, and he's going to now look up and start climbing up. And that's actually John in a suit.
Boy, I hope John never
Right
gets
there.
ticked off at me.
That's John Rosengrant, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah. And then, and I love this, where we now push the CG dinosaur back. There's John hooting. And I remember after this scene, he was really upset. John was going, how was my hoot? I was really, I don't know if did I do a good hoot?
I'm more amazed
talk
after
about acting.
After 6 years, I'm more amazed that the suit still fits John.
That's
a
true.
compliment.
He was so concerned about his performance, hooting behind there.
This was a fun shot. We had to
that's
have
a
a
great
raptor
shot.
negotiate the stairs. And
Here
there we
and now
go.
we're starting to bounce back and forth between live and animatronic in a really CG in a magic way.
This herd sequence, again, we wanted to get away from that replicating a walk cycle, so we did a lot of custom animation for this, and I think it really makes a difference. It really has an organic, realistic feel to it. It gets away from that that look of a computer game that sometimes will do crowd sequences and stuff.
Where it's
sort of
all
inherent.
identical.
Yeah, so I think it's really dynamic.
I always love those guys hauling ass.
Oh man, that's scary.
I remember in the first movie they said they talked about the Raptor speed, but we never saw it. We finally got to see it in this one. And that was, I think, they were pushing about 40 miles an hour there.
Imagine a crocodile running
know.
as fast as a cheetah.
It's a scary thought. Yeah, now this is where we get into the marriage of the animatronics and the CG. That's just flawless.
Certainly, you can't say enough about Joe and having a background in visual effects. It makes the process much easier when you have a director that understands it.
That's for sure.
And that's us. Great performance here coming in.
And we hand off to CG here.
Scraping the bush.
We have a lot of these. You see the raptors, the CG raptors, bump into bushes and that sort of thing too. In the past,
I love that.
They all had to be practical bushes. In this movie, they were all generated in the computer, which made the shadow interaction and everything work really well. All environmental elements are computer generated.
He's dead.
Oh my God! No, he's not.
Oh, I love this scene coming up. This has taken what we saw in Jurassic Park 1 to its ultimate, the jumping and going for it.
All shot on the soundstage.
That's right.
Beautifully lit.
They set a trap. They actually set a trap.
Those are both animatronic.
What do you say?
Those are animatronic.
That's a beautiful shot there.
And now CG.
Back to the CG.
And close up. And you can't tell the difference.
It really is hard to tell.
You cannot tell the difference.
I love that shot.
Yeah.
And you had,
Was that close-up animatronic?
You had Jeter
on
rigged
his-
up
on his
on
head?
cable
Dan?
rigs and all that.
I know we shot a
All
close-up where it grabbed his head. Was that spliced in between?
Yes, it was.
It was.
Yes,
So
yeah.
it was
So that was
bookends
I think we had
of-
to remove your sneaker from the
I'm
back.
sure you did. It was the suit one.
Oh, here we go.
So that was a combo right there. This is CG, but
now
when it
this
popped
is
up,
here's where it, in the same shot, live on the left, CG on the right.
There, we have a CG female handing off to
Real,
a male
live.
animatronic male raptor.
Yeah, I got you saying it's real too.
I don't know. What's this way?
What's great is no one knows.
Real? It is real. You're right. They are real.
We
all
fooled
real.
ourselves.
Great scene. Classic filmmaking scene.
And what about the music score in this thing? I think it's
just
brilliant.
awesome.
Don Davis's
Just
work
awesome.
in this
Boy.
is just unbelievable.
And giant effects movies like this are very complicated, and the stress levels are huge. But Joe Johnston was like a rock solid, great guy
Yeah, he's low key.
all the way through.
And on our end too, I got to mention Jimmy Mitchell, who couldn't be here today because he's over in London on another project. But
What a good guy.
He's a great guy.
What a good guy.
He's got to be one of the top visual effects supervisors in the world, and he's a friend and a real pro, and it was a pleasure working with him.
He sure stays calm. He's good
Completely.
from
It's
our
almost
standpoint.
scary, isn't it?
It is scary. You wonder what's going on upstairs, but he really is easy. I've had the privilege a couple times of working with him, and it's always been really great.
Larry Franco, I think, deserves.
You're Alan Gray.
He's
Larry and I go back 30 years.
he's the
When I was
best.
an
What's the
apprentice.
first film you did?
Yeah, I can't remember the first film I did. Oh, it may have been. I think it was a John Carpenter. But I knew Larry when I was an apprentice at Disney. He's I want to say cousin to Kurt Russell,
That's right.
and
brother-in-law.
brother-in-law, right? Excuse me. And I've known Kurt since he was a kid actor at Disney. I was an apprentice, and Kurt was a young star at Disney, and that's when I met Larry Franco. Was when I was an apprentice at Disney. That's like in 1969, 1970. I hate to age him, but sorry.
Well, we're throwing Larry Franco's son, Matt Franco, got to play in the World Series last year. I just want to point that out. He'd love to hear that.
And it was during
During
the
JP
filming
yeah.
of this.
So Larry was always torn between, shall I go to the ball game or hang out here so these guys don't mess up? So.
One thing Larry does do as a producer, having been through the whole process many times, he lets you do your job, which is always appreciated by all of us.
And protects your environment to do your job.
That's right. It really makes it possible for you to do the best you can.
I would be concerned and try and explain everything I got to do, and he kind of pat me on the shoulder and go, "Don't worry, kid, it's not my first barbecue."
Sir?
Sure. Eric, I had to tell you, I'm astonished that you've lasted 8 weeks on this island.
Is that all it's been?
Trevor's such a good young actor.
Well, you're alive, and that's the important thing. And thanks to you, that's one thing that we have.
It's another this scene that'll be coming up later. Maybe not want to talk over it so much. When he's attacked by the baby pteranodons, that's a perfect example of, again, all the technology coming together and all the performances, the bar of all the performances raised because of all of it working together. Whereas there are pteranodons on him, biting him, real puppets, and he was actually getting hurt by them. And within that scene, there are CG pteranodons flying in and getting him. So he is reacting. He's giving a total real actor's performance reaction to the baby pteranodon attack. And the baby pteranodons are, in fact, their performances, we're locked to all we can do, minimally. Which was, quite a bit, though, with the puppets on him.
Very old-fashioned style rod puppets.
But then the CG pteranodons flying and moving just raised the bar. I was very concerned about this, by the way, I think is one of the coolest CG dinosaurs.
Yes, the Ankylosaurus.
I am so. I say if there was a shot that just holds up totally by itself.
And it's right in your face, too, so that one works. We had the shot before that of the compies, too, which I really liked. There was a little bug that flies around, and the compy shows its aggressive nature at the end by taking out the bug. That was Pete Dalton animated that. He's one of our better animators.
It was great that we brought the compies back just for their little what do you call it, cameo. That was their cameo.
They're cute.
Yeah. Cute and nasty.
They're nasty.
That's always it. We always look for what we call the fear factor. When we're approaching any one of these dinosaurs. Okay, what's the fear factor? Like, what's the fear factor with the raptors? The fact that they're lethal and intelligent. That's pretty scary. With the Spino, we thought, well, he's big and he's dumb, but he's got this, crocodilian type mouth. So I think something like that, something big, dumb, and strong, is pretty scary to me. I don't know about you guys. So.
Compies were always sparrows on acid.
They were. They were. There's a little land piranha.
Protect your windshields.
With teeth.
One of the things that quietly kind of, I think, went by this summer with the summer movies, having worked on a couple, is for many years, with the advent of CGI work, it's been kind of a known or understood factor that we would try to integrate CG into live action things and movies on sets. I think quietly the crossover where we can now have a fully CG environment where someone like Stan or myself or John has to take something tangible and move it towards the CG world for the first time is something to be looking for, because I think it's really a kind of a different way of doing things that may have gone kind of unnoticed.
Well, we do have in that Pteranodon sequence you're talking about, Stan. We have the whole canyon area is a computer-generated environment, and early on when we were talking about that, obviously, one of the obvious choices is to try to do it as a miniature. And then Jimmy Mitchell, our effects soup, said, "I want to run a test to see what the feasibility is."
Right.
Of doing it as a totally virtual environment, and it allowed so much flexibility. Joe could come in and say, "No, I don't want my camera there. I want you to move it over a little bit to the right."
Absolutely.
Just play with it right till the end. Where if it was a plate, he'd be.
What is that?
What is that?
This is a matte painting. Matte World. Craig Barron and his group over at Matte World put that together for us.
Stick to the plan. Head to the
And
coast.
then there was a huge, though. Ed Verreau, his whole team, construction, put together out on the Falls Lake in the back lot.
What about Eric?
A huge. Michael, how big was that piece of wall?
It was a few football fields long,
Yeah.
with flying track overhead and a full working waterfalls and lake and just all the atmosphere. Everything was really as though you were in a jungle. And once again, Shelley had to go between the stage, and the real jungle in Hawaii and try to make this all match. And I think it helps make this a believable movie, much to his credit.
I think Shelley did a great job here. I remember early on in some of the production meetings, Joe and Shelley looking at paintings by Doug Henderson, who does a lot of the paleo art where he uses silhouette kind of objects in the foreground. Very Kong-like feel to it, and I think there is
black and white.
Yeah, I think there is a flavor of the old King Kong that exists in this movie.
Well, after we find your parents.
And then what?
Great set. I mean,
Best
back
set,
and forth.
forest set I've ever built was for this movie. Jurassic Park 3 is the best forest set ever built.
It was beautiful.
It's amazing. And just Shelley just lit it beautifully. And I like to call it Joe's godlight constantly coming out. And,
You could actually get lost in there if you weren't careful.
You could. You could. all they did, Danny and the greensman, they
Yeah.
moved the plants a little bit, and you'd be lost.
Come in the next day and absolutely be
You
lost.
actually start marking your way through the set like in a real forest by trees.
But these trees moved, huh?
They moved.
Eric! Eric! Eric, this way! Eric! Eric!
I love Taya Leone. I love her in this movie. I just think she is the coolest lady.
She's a fine actress.
Yeah.
There's a shot coming up here that, as animators, we want to get in there and really move things around. And Joe kept saying, "Tone it back, tone it back." All I want is for him to be alive.
Oh, and that was so terrifying.
Right.
It is the
It
perfect
is.
call.
It's very
They
it
made
was
the
great
perfect call.
No,
Just
Joe would come up
standing
with
there.
gems like that all the time.
Oh, God.
But yet, it's standing there. A very tough thing to do is have something not move and look alive, so it doesn't look frozen. You know, so
Perfect.
there's
It's one
subtle
of my
movements
favorite
going-
shots in the movie.
I think
is
it-
this
yeah, I
shot
think
of
it works
the
great.
Spino.
And then what's neat, he explodes from that still moment into the high energy of that,
Right.
you
But
know,
it's
over
like
the
a
top
real,
run.
real animal. When you come across them in a forest or whatever.
Yeah.
I was fortunate enough to go to Africa once, and you see these things.
Yeah,
They're
not
dead
doing
still.
anything.
They don't do anything. Then they just burst out in energy.
Truly could be one of my favorite shots, if not my favorite shot in the movie. When I suddenly saw him for the first time standing there, I said, "Ah, that's so cool."
And then it just
There it
explodes
is.
into this
There
great
it is.
action scene.
I was worried
How
the
cool
entire
is that?
I was worried the
How
entire
cool is
theater
that?
would try to answer their
That's so
cell phones when this sound went off.
And then the chase is on.
Here it is.
He's got a great gait. Really created a wonderful gait with him.
And it's different than the T-Rexes, and that was
Because the
fun.
weight of his forearms.
And weight. Yes,
the weight of
weight
his
is a
forearms
real
is,
important
you know.
thing.
This is nice, too. Everyone thinks it's
through the
over.
fence, yeah.
Yeah.
And then he...
Joe picked his spots great.
Oh, he did. He sets these things up so, and that's a special effect shot because of the way he set it up. You know, if you'd see something like that strung together with endless shots like that, you'd be numb to it. But
Right.
because of the structure, that's one of those special moments.
Pacing.
Yeah.
That's a cool one. I still love intercutting between the Spinosaurus and Barney out on the,
Yes,
on the lake.
great.
We get out on the lake. That is probably the proudest I've ever been of the work out of our studio.
That was beautiful. It was beautiful stuff.
The terror we have with water to start with, and then to take that animal and have him act in that water.
Water, fire.
Water, fire, and what a great performance.
We've come full circle,
Pat
Stan,
John on the yeah.
Certainly from the promises, I'll never get him wet or get anything
Yeah.
hot near him. I'm afraid all bets are off now.
Jurassic Park 1, please, Stephen, no
Yep.
water. Rained in every shot on the T-Rex. We're constantly mopping him down, drying him down, trying to keep him from shaking because he'd change his weight and we'd have to retune him.
It's like a giant
And
sponge.
then Lost World, Stephen, no more water, please. He sends us through a waterfall in Lost World.
That's right.
So then Joe Johnson's coming on. I'm going, okay, we've got a comrade. We're not going to have to worry about the rain and the water. We get the rain, and he's going to do his biggest scene in the lake.
Can he swim?
And we got the water down, so we'll add fire.
Go all the way. I want him to go all the way underwater. And he does. It's pretty amazing.
Hats off to the electronics team of Emery and Roderick and
Absolutely.
Tim
Oh, yeah.
Nordella, the chief engineer and designer, and Lloyd Ball, the hydraulics specialist. That thing was just humming nonstop.
It's a great
through.
machine.
I don't know how you guys do that. I can't get anywhere near water or electricity, and you know.
I'd like to thank those guys as well. They spend years building things, and I spend weeks trying to ruin it with all the stuff we do on the set. So, my hat's off to them.
In the previous scene here where we saw the Spino come through the fence, I just want to point out that a lot of that fence is set extension. There was a certain amount of the fence that was actually built on set, and then we extend it with a CG.
So it was a
fence.
CG fence?
Yeah, and this was all a blue screen background that we had to replace to put the far wall of the canyon out there.
And is that digital?
Yeah, it's all digital compositing. We have some great Eddie Pasquarello headed up our compositing team, and he just did some wonderful stuff on this.
It's really hard to find that blue screen without those funny edges, Eddie.
The stuff coming up, the sequence with the Pteranodons is a favorite sequence for me in the entire movie. 99% of it is all CG. We had a couple of shots, the profile walking down the gate. They were intercut. But interesting, the first shot of him coming through the smoke was boarded as a shot that we were going to do live, and we attempted to do it live with man in a suit coming out of the smoke, and had trouble tracking his eye line. It never, quite got the eye line. We couldn't quite hide him in the fog and get the entrance, and so that ended up being a totally CG shot.
That's something interesting to point out there is we all get together at the beginning of these films and we go over the boards and we'll look at one and we'll say, yeah, this should be animatronic, this should be CG, and we're getting pretty good at nailing which should be which. But every now and then you get into stuff, and it's an imperfect world in the movie business. Screws fall out all the time, as they say. So a lot of times we're throwing curves, but because we do the multiple techniques of effects, we always have a backup. Whether it's a CG shot that becomes an animatronic or an animatronic that becomes a CG shot. I mean, when it's an animatronic, they usually shoot it with the animatronic and then without, so we have a clean plate. So we just really cover all the bases when we're out there. But either way, Stan, I agree. The shot coming up is a very creepy, neat shot.
Very creepy. And again, hats off to Joe that he would not compromise until he got the shot to work the way he wanted.
This is one of his first ones. First shots that Joe had, I think, really clearly defined in his mind, and it's the thing that got me very excited about the Pteranodons, because it is so spooky, of the image of this giant thing stepping out of the fog.
What's interesting, too, is we took a different approach to the walk. You guys established the walk in the catwalks that we used anytime you see it, like in profile or three-quarter. But this straight-on shot, we had to take it a whole different direction for it to look right. So it's a completely different type of gait that we've got.
Well, you know that I actually, if you hadn't heard it earlier, I actually thought that this first CG shot of him coming out of the fog was our shot.
See, we're even fooling Stan Winston, folks.
You're fooling me constantly.
That's how you know it's
working.
working.
That was us. I said, no, it wasn't. No, it was CG.
In a few years,
no, we did that.
We did do it.
Another great build-up, too, if you look at how Joe structures this thing.
Now, did you help any of these shots with actually CG smoke?
Yeah, we did. We had to, we're always finding ourselves having to remove some support or the ceiling of the stage or something. That was a set extension. We do a lot of CG set extension.
On this one, right? The ceiling was a big issue, as I remember.
Yeah.
On this set.
Yeah, I mean, throughout the sequence.
Big sound stage. It's just not big enough.
They're never big enough.
Here it is.
Here it comes, yeah.
For what?
Creepy.
That is a great shot. And when you look at how little it shows, really, until now.
Now, that was us flying in and grabbing them.
That's right.
We did that
John
live.
learned to fly
that's
last summer.
Flying away.
That's John with the suit on, flying away, folks.
But what is great about the way he's being grabbed, and I remember, Dan, in one of our early meetings before we even got started, you brought in some footage. I think it was of a hawk grabbing,
That's right.
grabbing its prey. Mm-hmm. And here's the little animatronic babies in there.
Animatronic and CG happening right
there.
They
That's a
start
great
moving
shot.
and
Right
jumping
there.
forward. Yep.
A lot of set extension going on in that shot. The top of those pillars were on stage, but we had to extend them downward.
Yeah, they were just
How many
mounds.
puppeteers did we have under the nest?
Under that little nest.
Like 12 guys?
No, it was more than that. It was more like 20.
20 guys under
20
the nest?
guys.
How many came out alive?
4 or 5.
I love this heroic thing.
This is a
that
total
happens with
CG
him.
shot coming up right here.
There?
This one right there. That's everything.
How
The
great that
computer-generated canyon, which we
Awesome.
use a lot to extend a lot of the the practical sets that were built.
It's all CG, Pteranodon, now all real.
That's right.
All real, and then there'll be a combination when he's starting to get
Yep.
combination. Now he's all real. These are all CG.
These are all CG,
All
yeah.
CG.
Jen Emberley was the lead for the baby Pteranodons, and she did a great job animation lead.
Just
She's
beautiful.
wonderful.
These are real. I loved when we were grabbing and pulling his shirt off.
Little mad dogs.
Yeah.
And back to CG. Back here to CG,
CG
again, all
and
set
now
extension.
real.
This shot, a lot of these shots.
CG.
This shot
This is
coming
great.
up all there was a blue screen element right there. Everything was added. The Pteranodons, the canyon.
Awesome.
Now these feet that come in the shot are actually real.
Yep.
Not that. These are.
Yeah.
Those are real. That's
Back to
obviously Dan's handiwork.
Here again, CG. Back to the animatronic. Back to CG.
It was the animatronic over the shoulder.
Yeah, over the shoulder.
Yeah.
I think we come back to a. Oh, I love this shot. That's great.
That is a good shot.
Again, this canopy here was all computer generated.
This is
same one you saw.
This is us.
Live. Mark Viniello
Yeah.
wearing this suit.
Back to CG.
And
Back
that's
to
live.
you guys. I just love the pacing on these sequences.
Yeah.
Great. This shot I like too. This is a great setup.
This is a great shot.
You got the CG Pteranodon falling into the
And
water.
the cage.
That was a big rig
Nailed
for
with the cage.
Oh,
your
man.
team, Michael.
That
there.
whole
It was a huge rig.
that whole working in water, and this is that set as well with the practical waterfalls and all that. Working in the water is always
Now, is that CG grab there to the parasail?
I think so. Yeah.
Yes, it was. The canopy was all CG. This is total CG. This shot here. And I got to mention John Zdankowicz too, who was our Pteranodon, our adult Pteranodon animation lead on this thing. Did a great job.
Most of this, all this back lot, Falls Lake, water rigging, and all the flying rigs was Louis Lanteri and his group. They primarily spent most of their time back there getting this all ready for this sequence since it was so large.
Alessandro went to college with my son. They both went to Yale. I saw him, this young actor, in a play when I went to Yale to see my son in a play. He was actually the lead in a musical.
He's good.
He's so good.
This is a great couple shots.
Great
coming up
shots.
here,
I
too.
love this sequence.
These are again with our CG Pteranodons. All that water interaction is all generated in the computer too. Very creepy moment right here, I thought. And this was Joe
yeah.
just laid this out beautifully. Right back to you. Like you're next.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the Pteranodons, very, very sinister, sort of like a Dracula almost.
Which is what Joe was, he was really pushing that from the start. He wanted
From
these
the
things
design.
to, yeah.
He really was involved in the design of them.
Joe used to come over to our shop. Stan went to the studio all the time. Just would hang out, look at what we were doing, and he was just having fun.
This is that giant Ed Verreau set again out in Falls Lake.
Yep.
Just took up the whole back lot.
And Falls Lake, for those that don't know, is a big man-made lake. Now this is
This was on stage, right here. Yeah.
But this is the back lot also. Is it not? I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure
yeah,
this
it
is.
is.
Yeah.
We have a digital matte painting here that sort of extends the canyon and shows the whole aviary. It's kind of the reverse of showing an establishing shot first and then going in and showing the action. Joe played it the opposite, so it was mysterious while you were in there. You didn't quite know what was going on, and kind of reveals what it was all about at the end of the shot.
Now where that boat's going down, that's where they shot all the creature from the Black Lagoon movies years and years ago.
Getting their money's worth.
Dr. Grant?
Hey, Eric, how you doing?
I'm sorry about Billy.
You know what the last thing I said to him was?
We've got a sequence coming up here that's they call the Dino Valley, which is the one of those awe where the audience is supposed to go when they take a look at him. And I think it's a beautiful shot. It was a beautiful background plate that we got that Shelley photographed. And it was also an example to really show off some of this new flesh sim we have, because on the
The
small,
brachiosaurs.
yeah, on the brachiosaurs, right. On the smaller dinosaurs, it's there, but it's not as obvious. When you have a large animal, with looser skin, you can do more with it. But one thing that was interesting, we found out, obviously it works great on the large dinosaurs, the brachios and what have you, but even on the raptors that are really tightly wrapped dinosaur, it gave the skin a much more organic quality. And we really noticed it when it wasn't there. In other words, when we do renders without it, we go, something looks wrong, And it was, so it's one of one of those subtle details where we're sort of pushing the envelope.
Well, we're going to get an
And we love putting birds in there. You see that little bird that flies off his back?
Scale and
sure.
nature.
Yeah, and just all the environmental elements that we put into these things.
Ankylosaurs.
Yep, the Yankees. I think this next shot coming up is where you really get a good look at the way this flesh sim works. And it's interesting, once you have other cues to tell you something's heavy, like flesh moving, you no longer have to pantomime it into performance as much, which again gets you closer to nature. You watch an elephant walk and they glide, but yet they're heavy. They're heavy because there's other cues. There's the skin that jiggles, and now that we're getting into that area, it sort of redefines how we do the animation.
Listen.
This is
This really
scene.
funny.
I love
Yeah, I
this.
love this.
And they pull out then they get their friend comes and visits him, smells the Spinosaur.
Yeah.
That phone, I actually ran across something online that tells you how to program your cell phone to do that jingle.
We should tell the horror story of when we get to the Spinosaur, John, of the first shot of the Spino with the fin coming up.
That was my worst moment in the entire film.
We weren't far behind you with the fire, so...
Yeah, we built a spine that was going to come up out of the water. It was working, and then it ended up breaking free, and water's
Falling
tough.
over.
It fell over, and Artist Robinson, the first AD on the set, he was a pretty funny guy, and he said to me when he saw it breaking loose,
This is a fun character.
And this was the T-Rex modified to a Ceratosaurus by Ken Bryan, our model supervisor.
But just to finish that up real quick, he says to me, John Rosengrant, your spine is going east, west, north, and south. What can we do about it? And I said, there's nothing. It's sinking now.
Is this shot that we have, though, part of what we got?
Right here, that's right, yeah.
This isn't CG. This is us. So
No, this
was just before it died. The spine coming
again,
up.
though, Stan, I do
No.
believe this is.
We
this is
didn't
CG.
get it then.
And I think it's because Joe got into specifics about how he wanted the fin to undulate and things
Wait a minute,
like that.
this isn't practical, this shot coming up?
No,
With the spine in the water?
The spine literally broke before the shot.
No. They got a piece of it, but...
And it was also going too slow, wasn't it?
I think it
Couldn't
was.
get the
Yeah,
speed up. Couldn't get the speed up. So a simple shot like this is very interesting. Again, we thought, we built this whole spine rig to come up out of the water, and we had to end up it being replaced with the CG spine.
But then, again, too, Stan, there's that one a little further on here where the Spinosaurus comes up behind the boat here. It's coming up real quick. That they originally thought they were going to do CG.
Right.
Right here.
This is the...
This is CG, but this
northeast,
shot...
west, and south spine.
Yeah, this shot, they were going to originally do CG.
Right. And that's live.
Yeah, and that's live, so...
That's incredible that could all be live and still keep working.
This is all live. But it was a CG break, wasn't it? Because I remember we swung around for that shot where he broke part of the boat.
No, that's real.
I
That's
think
real.
it.
It's all real. Not
confusing
live.
ourselves with this.
Yeah, now
That's
we're
amazing.
confused, sorry.
That was all live.
I think it was all live.
No, I know the
'cause I remember
dinosaur was. I know the Spino was all live. The
The hit
Spino's
you're
all
talking
live. There was no. He really performed in the water.
Yes,
I'll
he
tell you.
did.
He really performed.
It was a
in the
neat backdrop for him because you could see
Yeah.
his silhouette and his look up against the sky. This was neat. This was the boat being turned around him because he was fixed, he could go forward and back on a track, but he couldn't go in circles.
Once again, remember, everybody was in the water. Everything you see moving around and all the people to support it were wet.
At night.
At
3
night,
o'clock
sorry.
in the morning. Fog. Cold. But worth it.
Now, a couple of those hand shots were CG, and I think the other one was practical. So, and you can't tell which is which.
You can't.
The grab was CG, and then we had the arms locked
onto the cage.
And I think when he pulls off, it's back to us again.
Now, also, a really neat scene is when the animatronic Spino is fishing in the water for this cage.
Oh, that's a great shot.
Because he, at 1,000 horsepower and his weight,
He
12
moved that
tons,
water.
he's moving that water around like a real creature.
I think everybody dreaded this sequence coming up, knowing it was nights and water.
We were going to dunk him in a cage.
Yeah,
from the water.
exactly. Everything about it is just difficult.
And once again, this is Joe. Hats off with the Barney and the
Yeah, that's a nice.
Yeah, here it is.
This guy is going for the water. I love that.
Yeah, that's
It's great.
Comes up,
That's-
roars.
That's about as organic as you can get out of a machine. I'll
It
tell
sure
you.
is.
These things work so well. The animatronics work so well when you get the rain in there and you get sort of that blue rim
Bouncing
line.
And that's CG.
That's
Yeah,
Beautiful
hand it
CG
back
shot.
to CG, then back
Now
to
that
animatronic.
hand going in is a insert arm
Right, that's right.
that was being puppeted
All
off the
real.
end of
Look
a
at this.
crane. Thanks, Bob Baden.
Yeah.
No
Key
kidding.
grip
And then
helped
Joe had
us
the-
out immensely.
Joe finally had the idea to find a construction crane somewhere and put this all together out in the middle of the lake. Remember when we finally completed this sequence, or the boards on this sequence? We had to go find a construction crane that was in a graveyard, put
Now,
it
which of
together.
these shots? That's us. There are a couple of shots coming up that I don't even know.
That's us. That's ILM.
That's us.
That's the animatronic.
That's us.
It's animatronic, right? That one's CG.
That's his CG.
Yeah, that's a CG hit on a real
That's a big
crane.
old real crane.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's
it is.
us.
Back to
That's-
animatronic.
yeah.
That crane was about 8 tons worth of steel, and Pat Romano and,
That
and
was
Don
us.
Elliott spent
Yep.
many hours working out this
That's
sequence.
CG.
Wow.
Great handoffs here.
Yes, really good. What was that?
That was us.
Animatronic.
And that was us.
Animatronic.
This is us.
Animatronic.
We turned and looked.
And back to CG
And
here.
now back to CG. And us. This is live. This is all live.
The Spinosaur ended right behind his hip. So
That's a
when
great
you're,
CG shot.
This is a whole great. This sequence
This
is
whole
great.
sequence. Oh, that's beautiful.
That's a
Look at
CG
that,
shot
yeah.
with all the
That's a-
interact
that's a
fire.
great-
and,
yeah.
and the wetness on it.
Everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, the shine on it.
It was Sue Campbell who animated that one, and she
great.
did it with Steve Nichols, who was I need to mention, who was our Spino anim supervisor.
Don Elliott and Bruce Donnell and Louis Lanterry and Kevin Pike pretty much wrangled this back lot, and you can see they did a great job.
Now that looks like it could be a matte shot, and it's all real. All the fire in the back.
Remember when we went fishing?
So now we're going to get into the
Now,
final
my favorite scene in the
Raptor
movie.
scene.
Again, a nice combination of our stuff. Glenn McIntosh, who came up with our Raptor design as far as the animation design, would key off sometimes some of the head movements you guys would do on yours, and it was a real back and forth.
And talk about the acting and reacting. You really watch the Raptors act and react with one another, pay attention, listen, and talk to one another in this scene, and then totally act and react with the actors. And selfishly, my favorite part of this scene is at the very end of it when the Velociraptor comes down and starts nudging Taya and sniffing her and pushing her, and she's dealing with a real raptor. I mean, they're two actors there acting and reacting to one another. I love being on the set watching that happen, because just before the scene, I would walk up to Taya and go, "We're going to hurt you."
She knew it was coming.
Yeah,
because
'cause look how scared she looks right here. This one amazed me. Look at this right there. You
She's
know,
good.
she's terrified right
What
there.
I said to her is that the machine itself feels like a real horse because it has about that much power. So when it would actually push against her,
This is beautiful work, by the
Yeah.
way. This is just beautiful work.
I like her
It's all
strut.
CG. Oh,
Yeah, it's neat.
great performance here.
There we are.
Oh, there we are.
Animatronic on the
Animatronic
left.
on the left.
Look at that.
And CG on the right. Now real. And watch it.
And
Just watch them acting together. I love this.
Chris Swift did a nice
Yeah,
job.
that's
of,
a good
beautiful
shot
job.
right there.
Lead
Look at this.
puppeteer on this.
This is so good.
This is spooky.
And the machine could really hurt her. I mean, because it had a lot of power. Cool sounds too.
Yeah, we should
Very
comment.
important. Very important.
Absolutely.
I mean, the life
Skywalker
of these
sound.
guys.
Skywalker sound.
Is that us or CG?
That was your animatronic.
I think it was. Yeah.
Isn't that something? I'm sitting here going, is that?
I was
who is
there
that?
for every one of those
I don't know.
shots, and
Yeah.
you forget.
And watch this performance when they hear it. I love this. I love what happens to them. It's like, what the hell is that? I love that.
No. Call for help.
This is a nice shot coming up here too, where the CG Raptor starts to move in and
Yeah.
the animatronic Raptor
Great.
growls
This
and
is
backs
great.
off. That's what I'm saying. It was great to have that to cue off of when we were
Look at
doing
them.
the
Hey, look at
animation.
the.
Now
Look at the.
she's hearing the
Yeah.
helicopters.
What's so impressive is the match of the swiftness of movements between the animatronic and the CG.
Yeah,
They're right on.
We really got them to move much faster mechanically this time. They
Made a huge difference.
That's just a head that's reaching and it picks it up, and then it goes to a wider, full animatronic.
And then to the
CG.
We always thought it would be funny when that male raptor picked up the egg that he bit a little too hard and the yolk
broke
fell.
it.
And then he splits the other way off screen, right?
Well, gosh, Aruna, you guys did a great job. I believe those dinosaurs are real.
Well, everyone did a great job here.
There's certainly something to be said to have ILM behind you, pulling this stuff off.
These shots, too, we actually had to make the army bigger. We had to add helicopters, extend boats down add soldiers. You know, Joe said, my army's not big enough, so we get in. A lot of the stuff they do at ILM with is invisible. You don't even realize that it's an effect shot. This, for example, that was a blue screen.
That's great.
Yeah.
So they weren't really there. That was a blue screen element that they...
It is.
There's subtleties that you just would never pick up on.
Well, it allows them to do it. I mean, years ago, you'd have never thought of doing something like that as a composite shot, you know. But between our...
Part of the process is making directors comfortable with what we do so that they feel free to make the movie to match their visions.
And again, what you said about Joe, coming from this background,
Right.
he's already comfortable with it. Well, as comfortable as anyone gets with the effects.
Yeah.
I'm not comfortable.
Yeah, that's right.
As much fun as it can possibly be.
any of this stuff is done.
Sure, it's going to work.
Yeah, I'm not comfortable myself.
I don't think you want to be. I think we even had a couple boats here out on the horizon.
Storm Sea Shadow, Roger. Good work.
What the hell is that?
Yeah, it's ships, and then CG Pteranodons there.
Where do you think they're going?
I don't know, maybe just looking for a...
To Stan's conference room.
That's right.
I dare them to nest in Enid, Oklahoma.
Maybe in a few years we'll know where they're going.
You bet we will.
Let's go home.
And then we'll have the same feeling all over again of the ghost of the first three.
That's right.
Wanting you to do a better job, or at least equal the work.
No, we gotta top it. Gotta top
Gotta
it.
Sam
top
is
it.
so good in this. The actors are all so good in this.
They made a great difference.
love 'em
They
all.
were just
We put this shot together from, I think it was 2 or 3 different cloud backgrounds that Joe had picked. And then we'd put a CG layer of cloud in there to sort of help with the transition. This was
love
Joe's
the
touch.
life of the wings, the life of the skin.
right.
Just really
Yeah, they're not
wonderful.
just sticking out there doing nothing.
Well, they flap too. You get that
Right,
again.
they
That,
get
that's
wind ripple.
Yeah, that's dynamic simulation on the new Flesh Sim.
Well,
And Joe Johnson.
good job, guys.
Cheryl Tack at Universal deserves mention for her contributions to JP3. She's Larry Franco and Joe Johnston's assistant, and believe me, those 2 guys can keep you pretty busy. And she did an outstanding job of always keeping us in the loop up at ILM. We always knew when changes were coming or where they were heading with certain shots. So thanks, Cheryl. Steven Spielberg and Kathy Kennedy, what do you say? Once again, thank you. Our professional lives are, all about creating movie magic, and you've created a world in which all that's possible. Mark Miller, when it comes to visual effects producers, he's the best of the best, and he always manages to keep us laughing. Teresa Carrero, she's an outstanding young producer, and she was a delight to work with. Thanks for keeping us all out of trouble, and long live the big board. ILM's been around for about 25 years, and in that time we've put some extraordinary images up on the screen. We've been fortunate to be involved in all 3 of the Jurassic Park movies. The fact that we've been around so long is no fluke. It starts with the upper management, and they realize that their main resource, or their greatest resource, is the talent that they hire. Our CG supervisors, Kevin Barnhill and Christoph Harry. Compositing supervisor, Eddie Pasquarello. CG sequence supervisors, Samir Hoon, Steve Mullen, Robert Weaver, and Chris White. I had a crew of over 30 animators on JP3. And I'd especially like to thank my lead animators, Sue Campbell, Peter Dalton, Jen Emberley, Glenn McIntosh, Steve Nichols, Tom St. Ahmad, John Zdankowicz. You people are the best. Creature supervisor, Tim McLaughlin. Digital model supervisor, Ken Bryan. Technical animation supervisor, this was the guy in charge of all the muscle dynamics, Dennis Turner. Way to go, Dennis. Digital paint and roto supervisor, Jack Mongovin. Roto folks, we salute you. View paint supervisor, Jean-Claude Langer. Match move supervisor, David Washburn. ILM art director, Eric Wrigley. Animation sequence supervisor, Paul Griffin. Research and development supervisor, John Anderson. I'm not sure what planet John's from, but we're all glad he decided to make Earth his home. Location match move supervisor, Lanny Cermak. Visual effects editor, Bill Kimberlin. Miniature visual effects director of photography, Marty Rosenberg. Model supervisor, Charlie Bailey. ILM computer systems support, Ken Beyer. ILM editorial technical supervisor, Mike Morgan. And of course, our senior staff, Jim Morris, Gail Curry, Jeff Mann, Patty Blau, Chrissy England. And for their support on this production, whether we were laughing or crying, I want to thank Bryce Parker, Adrian Anderson, Damian Carr, Stuart Lauder, and Ken Murayama. I personally want to thank the best animation crew I've ever worked with. It has been a privilege. And last, but certainly not least, Mr. Lucas. Without George, there would be no ILM. I'm sure you all know what a great job Universal does of putting together these DVDs. They're always a lot of fun. So a special thanks to Laurent Bouzereau and Marianne Mancy. Thanks a lot, guys.
Well, hope everybody enjoyed this. I did.
Yeah,
it was a lot of fun. Hope to do it again sometime.
Later, guys.